Hey guys and girls, Poker Thinking here, back with another video. Today we're going to talk about Flesh and Blood, and more specifically we're going to talk about Razor Reflex Pink Strip reprint. So that is something that kind of shocked me a little bit this morning. I imagine it shocked quite a lot of people when they saw the news. So obviously in the gem packs, these gem packs, by the way, look amazing. There's some really nice stuff in there. I will post the link, the list up here that we have seen already. There's some good stuff in there. I like the idea you can get like marvels and cold foils and that, and this is literally participation, just for going down to your armory, which I think is fantastic. So Razor Reflex. So Pink Strip obviously comes from Alpha, and this is gonna be a video mostly on Alpha. I think raising awareness a little bit about kind of what Alpha is. For a lot of people that have joined the game, they're probably not really aware of it. A lot of the newer players that I talk to are not really they don't really understand it, or they might not know what Pink Strip is. So Razor Reflex obviously got reprinted, has been reprinted before anyway. But this time it's in Pink Strip. So in Alpha, the red strip cards, so red pitch cards, were printed in pink. Now this was a printing error, and they kind of ran with it, basically. But the only card that didn't was Razor Reflect, which is actually red. So that's the only card in Alpha that didn't get printed in Pink Strip. It is red strip, basically. And this one is actually in Pink Strip, so, you know, it doesn't affect it really. Like, for me, it doesn't change anything. It was never technically printed in non-foreign Pink Strip, so this is the first time it has been. There's definitely concerns that this sets a precedent and the direction that LSS are going, but I don't know. I think it's, you know, it is kind of hard to judge. I know what we've seen in the past with Art of War, Cold Foil, and some of the reprints that we've seen that people weren't happy about. I think in the long term, it doesn't really change anything. If anything, it might bring people's eyes to Pink Strip, because they might go, well, why is it pink? And then someone go, well, in Alpha, the red cards were printed in Pink Strip, basically. And okay, fair enough. Exactly. That's the kind of conversation that I imagine is going to be had. Because people will be like, oh, is this an error? And I can see people now going to be posting, oh, I've got this. Is it an error because the strip is pink, not red? You know, people that might be opening a pack that, you know, might not have too much knowledge on early in the game. Now, remember, a lot of the people that are involved in this game now entered Heavy Hitters, Misfail, Rosetta, and even the Hunted. So they're kind of not really exposed too much to the earlier stuff. And that's kind of a conversation that I've had with a load of people, as well as a video before where we've discussed newer players coming in, newer collectors coming in, and they look at the Marvels versus like a cold foil from Alpha, for instance. So that exposure really kind of is a little bit lackluster, and I kind of want to talk about Alpha, so of the importance. And really it comes down to collecting what you want to collect. Collect what you enjoy. The same as any card game. It can be difficult sometimes to kind of pin down exactly what you want to collect. You know, I'm a big fan of the early stuff. Obviously, I got in the game Crucible of War. I opened up WTR, Arc, and Crucible of War. So, like, that's some of my favourite stuff. But I also really enjoy the new sets. I think the Fab 3.0 and 2.0 stuff, we've seen amazing stuff. Like I've talked about it on the channel already. Heavy Hitters, Misfail, Rosetta was fantastic. The Hunted, I've already opened a bit at the events. I've got cases here, which will be cracked on Friday's stream. So it'll be 12:30 Meridian time, aka UK time. And it'll be, I think, 7:30 AM Eastern time, which is the US Eastern time. I don't know. There's like multiple time zones for the US, but basically 12:30 my time. We'll be streaming. It'll be myself and a couple other collectors, and I'll be cracking some of that. So the new stuff is really alluring, and I can understand that. But obviously, I really enjoy the early stuff. So, you know, with Alpha, this is the fundamentals, right? Obviously, you've got Alpha, you've got First Edition, Arcane Rising, and Crucible of War First Edition. They're special, right? Now, with Alpha, it's pretty savage. You can open a box and not get a cold foil. The same as Arcane Rising. It is fairly common to get a box without a cold foil, because the pull rates were like one in like 24 packs, but it wasn't specifically one per box. So I've seen boxes of all of those sets with no cold foils, which is feels bad because they're quite expensive. They've come down quite a lot, which makes sense. A lot of the old school investors and collectors have kind of sold out, which is good because a lot of it was being hoarded by the same like few people. And this is the conversation I've had with people about certain generations of Pokemon, certain eras, mid-era Japanese. If a few people have all of the product, how are anybody going to get any exposure? How is exposure going to get out there? How are people going to be learning and understanding what it is? If a few people own all of the alpha, well, if people can't get it, they're just going to move on. Exactly. Like, they're not going to kind of dwell on it. I think that's something that a lot of people don't really think about is, okay, it's cool having, large amounts. And don't get me wrong, like I've got multiple copies of certain things from certain different card games. But when you've got a game as small as Fab, and you've got certain people that have a few hundred boxes of alpha or whatever, or like hundreds of copies of certain stuff, when these new collectors come in, everything's already unachievable or unattainable. And we're only 5 years into the game. So we had a point where it was like 2-3 years into the game where so much of that early stuff was unobtainable for anybody entering the game. Now, it's a free market at the end of the day. You're going to get people from either side of the arguments going, it's my money, I can do what I want. And that's absolutely fine. But why are you hoarding? Why are you investing? Why are you collecting? Do you believe in the game? Because if you believe in the game, I think you have to understand to a level, long term, the biggest exposure to this game is what's going to benefit it. More people collecting, more people playing is for the benefit. So if you're hoarding all the singles and there's no supply, it's like I met a guy that said he had 90 play sets of CNC from Arc. Okay, well done. Like, I'll get my little Blue Peter badge out there. I'll get some cookies baking for you. Ultimately, all you're doing is, hoarding 90 play sets of a staple. Now, again, as I said, does it matter? Does it not? I think it matters. I think holding that many playable copies of a card is dangerous for the game. A game where it's so young as well. And, I do say this a lot, but Fab is a very young game. It's only 5 years old. That's nothing. In the grand scheme of things, that is nothing compared to the absolute titans of other card games. Now, with Pokemon, obviously, they have a rotation system. So, hoarding playable copies and enough product gets cracked. So, it literally is irrelevant. But with other card games, like Fab, that doesn't have a rotation system, it can be dangerous. And I know there's going to be some people in the comments, or they might not even be commenting. They simply might be thinking, well, again, it's my money. I can do what I want. Yeah, you can, obviously. But I just don't think it's healthy for the game. So a lot of this was getting hoarded. A lot of this alpha stuff was getting hoarded. And it's enabled people like myself and other collectors that I know to start doing like alpha binder sets. I know, shout out to Tom, AK Soul. He is doing a 9.5 rainbow foil alpha set. Unreal. I think he wants 9.5 in the cold foils as well. I think he's pretty much there with most of it, I think. I know he needs the heart still, but he sort of chipped off quite a lot of the stuff last year. And, he's been in the game a long time, don't we go on, the same as I have. But a lot of that stuff early on was unobtainable. And now this has given the opportunity to be able to pick up some of these things. Now, if you want a cold foil alpha tunic and you've got the money to buy one, you can buy one now. There's many on the open market. You don't even need to know a guy. Whereas a lot of circumstances, it gets to a point like you need to know someone. Like if you wanted a gold foil tunic, you're going to need to know someone, right? But to buy a cold foil alpha anything, you don't need to know anybody now. You can go up on one of the Facebook groups. There's copies for sale. And that accessibility is really important for collectors because they're going to pick a couple of copies up and go, do you know what? I want to do the set now. And they're going to get really interested. They're going to get involved in it. As I said with the pink strip, when people learn about it, they might go, oh, that's pretty cool, actually. I'd like to own copies of those. Maybe I'll do like all the commons and rares, or maybe I want to do a pink strip in my deck, for instance. So I want all the staples that I can get from Alpha and pink strip. And it's that curiosity that leads people to collect, engage, they'll learn about it, and then the chances of them teaching somebody else is also very high. But when you've got games like Fab where a lot of people come in early on, invest and stuff, and then they leave, that knowledge is taken away. And there's a lot of people that I talk to, that I spoke to very early on in Fab, that aren't involved in Fab anymore. They've moved on to other card games, and I still talk to them, and they'll still like, when I post up on like Instagram or whatever's about Fab stuff, but they're not interested. And some of these people were played in, the first events worldwide. They were pioneers in their community. They were big collectors, big investors, and they've left the game now, and that knowledge is going to get lost. So I think it's really important to talk about these things. Obviously, Ark and Crucible of War don't have the pink strip, but they are obviously first edition, and we stopped with Monarch. Now, a lot of people probably don't realise, and I've seen people put in Dynasty first edition or Uprising first edition, because they don't realise that, obviously Monarch or Everfest was the last set to get first edition. And I don't know if it really counts with Everfest, because we never got Unlimited. Yes, it was printed technically, but it didn't hit circulation on a mass scale. I know there's a couple of cases that went out there, but it doesn't really matter. So Monarch truly was the last... No, Toa even, sorry. Tales of Aria, I can't forget about. Tales of Aria is the actual the last proper first edition set. So that's quite important. It'd be interesting to see if people do kind of engage in Alpha a little bit more now. If they're curious, if it changes things. I think these gem packs are a really great idea. I really do. I think it's going to incentivize people to come back to Armories. It's already incentivizing me to go back. Which is great. I'm going to probably build Syndra, and it'll be interesting to go back. But yeah, it's good. And these gem packs are supposed to be participation. These aren't replacement for packs. This isn't a prize thing. This is simply participation. So if your LGS is trying to do it as prize support, you need to let them know that that's not the case and link them to the LSS article. If they still deny it, then you can report them. It's simple as that. Because they shouldn't be doing that. That's not the case. But yeah, here's just a kind of a quick video really to talk about Alpha and kind of getting involved. I'm not going to go in depth because there's plenty of videos. Maybe I will do an in-depth video on Alpha. But the pink strip, I think, is the main thing really that people might not be aware of versus other things. But I understand the worry that the president sets that perhaps they'll reprint more, and some of the decisions that LSS have made in the past. But at the moment, there's no point getting worked up about something. I think take it as it is. I think it's quite cool. And now you'll be able to, if you wanted a complete pink strip set, you technically can do it. Now it's not from Alpha WTR, but And I'll put a picture up here of telling the difference between Alpha, first edition, or Alpha, WTR Alpha and Unlimited, Arc first edition, Unlimited and Crew, because the first two sets, they didn't have, it's different, it's not coloured in. So with Crucible of War, for first edition, it's coloured in, and then for Unlimited, it's not. Whereas the first two sets, it will literally just be WTR and then S if it's a super rare, for instance, and then the Unlimited will have the coloured in. So there are a little bit differences. Now, when I've picked up collections, I've realised that people didn't realise what they were on about. There was Alpha and Arc stuff in bulk. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of this early stuff doesn't have too much value anymore. A lot of it was quite expensive for a while, I think, but now it's quite cheap, a lot of the bulk and stuff. So, if you want a play set of, any of the pink strip stuff, a lot of it's quite cheap still. Pink strip still commands a higher price, especially in foil, than like the blue and yellow. But, it's a lot cheaper than it was before. So, yeah, let me know what you think about gem packs and this Razor Reflex reprint. I'd be interested to see what everyone's thoughts are on that one. Hit the like and subscribe button as always, the notification button, so you can get a notification when I upload, because I upload a lot of videos. As I said, we'll be going live on Friday to open up Cases of the Hunted, which I'm really excited about to crack into. It'll be myself and a couple of other fellow collectors. So it should be a blast. It'll be good. And as always, have a great day.